Hello everyone, Jalen here from Team Infinity doing the first episode of deck discussion. I kind of want to call this something else. I don't know, something cheesy maybe, if you guys would like that. Like, I don't know, raise the deck, raise the flag. I mean, Joey tried raise the flag before, but that was a shame. That was a sham. That was a piece of shit. Joey should have never done that. Or at least he should have done it better. But enough about him. This is about the deck discussion series that you guys really wanted. We got even past the light goal, which was 10. We got 11. Thank you. At least that lets me know that you guys actually wanted to see this series. Please, and like always, please leave comments down below of your suggestions of what you want to see in any deck. That would be greatly appreciated because I can't always come up with everything on myself. I want to know what you guys want to see. I don't want it to be like I dictate what's going to be on the next episode, and then you guys have to watch it in case it's a deck you don't want to see, or it's a deck that feels similar to another one if I did one before, or something like that. But anyway, this one is going to be on Crimson Fist. I did this as a sort of request someone had. I'm going to go over the deck list, and we're going to go over every single tidbit about the deck. Now, this may seem similar to the pros and cons, but this is much different. We're not going to be we're somewhat grading it and not determining if the deck is good. It's just that what you can expect from this deck is what I'm trying to get around from the series. But anyway, for what I run and what I'm comfortable with, I run 4 boosted dragon. The 4th is at my bottom because I effed up when making this deck list, so the 4th one's at the bottom. Sorry. And it's my buddy, because it's just Halberd Dragon, and Halberd Dragon was my favorite card for a long while. So since he's a Crimson Fist version, I kind of like him a lot, so he's at 4. And he's also one of your best size 2s, other than like Heavy Impact and these guys. Then we got 4 Crimson Bower Drumbucker Dragon. Drumbucker Dragon's just great. It's always needed at 4. It's a really good card. 3 crit penetrate if you have a weapon. Already has Soul Guard. 2k defense is bad because I've already mentioned pros and cons. It gets wrecked by counter removal such as Dragon Thunder and Dragonflake Cascade and the Right Brooder and shit like that. Then we got 2 Crimson Bower Extreme Blow. Extreme Blow is only good at 2. Playing 3 is like, I think, detrimental to your deck more than it benefits, because you already have a 3 critter in Drum, and Drum's just a better call anyway. Yeah, this one's free, has more power and no penetrate, but he's just vanilla, and he has the same defense. So like, it's all up to you. I say 2's the better number, 3 is not. Oh god, Skype. The lower right. But I play 2 Extreme Blow. And then 2 Heavy Impact. Like I said, this card's really good, but it's got 4k. The power and defense just really hinder this card, so I only play 2. 3 Spin Nail. I don't like playing 4. I honestly don't, because triple Spin Nail in your hand is terrible, because then 1's practically dead because you can't call 3, and you wouldn't want to because Fist-based deck. Also, it just doesn't, like, the 6-8 clearing power is cool and all, but like, he already has 7k, he has 5k, he has 5k, he can destroy a card. I don't really feel like I need the clearing power that much. Then we got 3 Ignited Dragon, gains a critical when I have a fist weapon, and he has 3000 power. Really solid. Really solid critical, decent power, easy to call, good card. And 3 Rock Bunker. Like I said, this is probably a promo, so like, you probably can't have this in your build right now. I say just play like something like the 1000 Rapier Clones Hammer Bowl or the other one. But Rock Bunker, I just use it to get gauge when it does get tough. I probably should be playing the size 3s in here because they are okay, but like, I don't know. This deck's more like rush based than I want it to be, than be a little more defensive if I put size 3s. 3 Boomerang, because this is a triple formation deck, so Boomerang, calling it to center and then killing shit, and then just Boomerang, just size 0, too good. Under the spells, we have 2 Dragobond. Dragobond is God to me in this deck, but I don't want to max it out or put it at 3. I know it's weird to say it like that. Like, I expect it to be great, but then I don't want to play more than 2. But I also really think this card, like, is too easy to get around for your opponent. Like, it's just, and it's only always monster reliant, and you could always have those unlucky times. So I don't want to be drawing this and have less chance of drawing into monsters. So 2 is a good number. Because this is a triple formation deck, so keeping your monsters alive is almost essential. Like, Drago Energy's only good at 3, because like I said, these guys have really shit defense, so Drago Energy isn't going to help unless you do Drum and you have Soul Guard, so and sometimes heavy impact. 3 Dragonic Thunder, because gauge issues, so I don't want to play Dragonic Survive, and this still just works just as well, because most things being called are size 1s. And this is even good against Ancient World, because they always play size 0s now. They have the Brooders, they have the Raging Spirits, have Ricky, so this card's just great. 4 green, 4 blue, self-explanatory. These are your nullifiers that you must run 4 of. 2 Dragonic Aura. It's funny to see me, of all people, playing this, because I discredited someone playing this one time, but it's like, I didn't feel like playing Dragonic Charge, but I don't know. I just felt like, I guess that I get what the guy was going with. It's like, if you have a weapon, you gain 2 gauge and a life. I still hate it when I don't get a weapon, or like, it's like easy for your opponent to like, just not care that you gained 1 life, because the 1 life isn't all that special, but whatever. And then 2 Dragonic Repair Weapon. We don't have this in the TCG. Like I said, this is just like what I'd play if like they were complete and shit. But Dragonic Repair Weapon is just way too good. Should not be in Dragon World. Get an item back for free. Just crazy good. Then for the weapons, I chose 3 to do it. 3 Steelfist Dragon Knuckle and 3 Drago Blaze, because Drago Blaze is definitely the staple one. You need the 3 crit because it helps out with the damage output and Gigant Crusher with finisher shit. And also, I chose Steel Fist because with the life you can gain from Dragonic Aura and from Buddy Gift, you can just pretty much nullify 1 life cost, and then you can keep gaining gauge. And like, there's a lot of gauge in this deck, so you can keep, like, by using this, Rock Bunker, and like Dragonic, like all those cards gain you gauge, like this ability and this and Rock Bunker, so I can constantly have gauge. And if I need to get over a wall and my monsters already have good clearing power, I can also make my weapon have good clearing power, and I don't have to like use something like Sunfist where it's limited to 6k, while this I can help get over 6k or even more if I actually need to do so. So I kind of think this is the most versatile pick and the best pick for the deck. And the last thing, like you saw, was Gigant Crusher. This card, I think, is just phenomenal in the deck. It's just what you need in order to make this deck work. Like, it secures a game, your opponent can't stop it, practically, and it's just easier to do because 3 gauge, and like I said, I have so many cards that gain gauge, it's almost never impossible for me to get this off. Like, you can just, like, attack your opponent, like, 2 times with 3 critical, and, like, that's simple as calling a, Extreme Blow, then, like, a Drago Blaze, and then that's already 1 gauge, and, like, if I call, like, a Rock Bunker, I'm already back up to 3, and then if I just need to do the 6 damage, and then I can just, bam, do this, because I already gained a gauge back from Rock Bunker. So say it was on a turn of a charge and draw, and I have 3 gauge, and Drago Blaze calls a gauge, call the Rock Bunker, I get back a gauge, and then Gigant Crusher for GG when I attack with 2-3 crits. It's just consistent enough to work at 2. I don't like to play more than like 2 impacts usually. 3 is okay. 4 is overkill no matter what the deck. But enough of the deck profile. I'm gonna get on to the actual deck discussion. Alright. What 3 things I want to go over first are early, mid, and late game. Alright. This deck is all about the early game good damage. Like, if this deck can get, like, its weapon consistently enough to the point where you can just go first turn, equip Drago Blaze, go for 3 crit, And if you're not going against Darkness Dragorold and getting screwed over by a Guillotine Cutter, you'll gladly do that 3 damage to your opponent. If they waste a null, that's already better for you, because this is a rush deck, and getting less nulls in your opponent's hand out of the way, like less nulls for your opponent to have, are just like very crucial and just very good to get rid of stuff early on so you can finish them off later with Gigant Crusher. So they have a really good early game. The only problem with their early game is if they start seeing some counter removal, they start getting slowed down too much, and since there's no consistent way to get a monster, there's almost no recovering from that. It would just be down to the luck of the draw when it comes to your deck. So I say be very wary of what monsters you call, because it's always possible that you could lose those monsters, and the bad position you can be put in for losing those monsters could cost you the game. Mid-game, where the game is starting to flush out and you start getting a feel for your opponent's play style, you can start playing a lot smarter. If you play a lot smarter, like keeping your boomerang at bay sometimes, like keeping it in your hand constantly, actually not charging it. Like against certain matchups, you would charge it because it's not gonna be that useful. But most of the time, you should keep it, because with the boomerang, you can keep constantly hitting low defense monsters or doing that extra 1 damage that can help you out in the long run. So boomerang is just a great fit in the mid game because it just allows you to start withering down your opponent's life slowly. The 1 damage really does do a lot. From what you're like in a rush deck, even the simplest 1 damage helps. Like, not saying play burn, because you're not gonna fit finger shot in this kind of deck, but I just think that boomerang helps out so much in this deck. I probably should play 4, but 3 is already consistent enough to me, and I kind of wanted to make more room for these guys because they are the main theme of the deck. But only the glaring weakness of the deck is always not getting a weapon, because then, like I said in the pros and cons, these guys will just become vanillas. But in the most part, it's not bad for these to become vanillas. Drum is perfect as a vanilla. It's already got Soul Guard and 3 crit, so you don't really care for him. Boosted Dragon, it can conflict. Actually, it won't conflict, because if you can't get a weapon, you might as well have your center filled rather than keep getting hit in the face. So 6K defense is great, and he doesn't hinder him at all in terms of what he can do. He's still got 5K power, 2 critical. He's my buddy, so he can get me a buddy gift. So I just think that every card here except Heavy Impact is fine as a vanilla. Even something like Ignited, like even though he has 3K power and he's just 2 critical, he's just simply what he is, 2 critical body. And he's always just there for the crit, and like that is it. Like, with someone like Spin Nail is good for clearing power and critical. So, it's just that it's all up to the luck of the draw usually in mid-game, but it usually comes down to what you've been doing in early game that leads to your mid-game that allows you to start taking advantage of your opponent's lowered resources if you've been doing a good job, such as keeping up the pressure, and then if they start nullifying attack, you can start aiming for monsters, and they'll whittle away their advantage because they'll lose at least 2 cards that turn, if not more, so you can just start whittling away advantage from your opponent, and then you can just constantly go in for damage afterward and then finish them off with your impact, which is a really great strategy. Late game, this deck struggles a lot because of their low defense, so any counter, like I said, just like early game, counter removal can really come into play and just screw up your late game possibilities. They do have a good late game because if you play Gigant Crusher, and I know it's got Gigantic, but I just call it Gigant because it's just simpler. But late game, this deck does struggle because if it can't get in that damage late game, then you're just slowing yourself. You slowly got a really shit deck, and if your opponent's been keeping you at bay by getting rid of your weapons consistently enough, and you haven't drawn into this, then you're in a bad position. And then your Dragonic Auras become dead draws. If your monsters have been whittled away, Drago Bonds are dead draws. Depending on the deck, a Dragonic Thunder could be a dead draw. There could be a lot of things that could turn into dead draws based on the situation in late game, so they do struggle for that matter. But they can still pull it back because of their just like no low damage output. Shit, I accidentally got rid of a boosted dragon. 1 second. But this deck can still do well, even despite the late game setbacks they get, especially since there's like 0 draw power in this deck. I mean, I don't even play Dragonic Grimoire. That's how confident I am that I'm just gonna fucking win. But as in terms of consistency, just like because they don't have any draw power, this deck is not consistent at all. Like, the only consistency they have is like practically their monsters. Like, their monsters are all their consistency. Like, also your numbers, the numbers of cards you play are always important. Like, I play 3 Dragon Energy enough to just, like, 3 is just enough so I can see it when I need to see it and not have too many. 3, same goes for Dragonic Thunder, and same for Drago Bond. Nullifiers always have to be at 4, so this is always going to play a factor with your spell lineup, because when you have to fill it with nullifiers, it always makes it hard to fit in other spells. So that's why I had to consistently put Dragonic Aura only to 2, even though I maybe would play 1 if I freaking wanted to play 1-ofs, but I hate 1-ofs, so this is why I play 2. And also 2 Dragonic Repair Weapon, because you have 6 weapons, so 2 ways to get them back is already good enough, because that will give you versatility, because if one's in drop and you need the other, then you can just Dragonic Repair Weapon and shit like that. It just, and like, if you play any of the other fists, such as, no, I mean, if I just go to items, it'll be easier. If you play like Drago Burst for like, I mean, you wouldn't play Drago Burst because like Sunfist exists, but like, if you play something like Sunfist and Drago Blaze rather than like Knuckle, then you're gonna have a fewer gauge issues. I mean, not as much, because you still have Rock Bunker if you want to play it, and Dragonic Aura, so it's still okay, but like, then it's not as consistent enough to keep Gigantic Crusher going if you really play more than 2, like more than myself. But consistency in this deck isn't too bad. It's just normal consistency for any deck. It's not anything special. It's not like Magic or Legend or something like that. In terms of draw power, like I said, it's just shit because Dragon World. So I don't even try and play any like Dragonic Grimoire. That just puts you in a worse position if you draw it like early game. I don't like drawing it early game. Because you got to keep early game going with like good offensive pressure. Now, in terms of top decking, this deck can't really top deck a lot of things. Like, I'm gonna call it luck factor. This deck can't really spew out a luck factor. Everything's practically like vanilla. The only real luck sat card I can say is like top decking a fist when you don't have any fists in hand, and then you have a bunch of good ability ones like Ignited and Heavy Impact in your hand. You can start going off. Or you top deck a Heavy Impact and start destroying like crucial cards to a game. Like, if you say like go against Seeger and then you have like Knuckle, Drago Knuckle plus Heavy Impact, and you link attack it and then also destroy it with Heavy Impact's ability, and you get rid of the Seeger and they don't have enough for a Spartan, you can end up, well, finishing them off because Lifelink 5 will most likely kill them. And if you're going in, and if they somehow get to like Tempest Enforcer against you, you can destroy Tempest Enforcer by just simply linking attacking, and they're dead, pretty much. So this deck has this deck has one last factor that must go into account when it comes to this deck discussion is matchups. Now, the only bad matchups this deck has are Raging Spirits, because most of the good ones like Billy Knuckle and the free one, the 737, can really put a dent in this deck, because unless you draw like Extreme Blow, you're not going to like simply one-shot them, or a Spin Nail, you're not going to one-shot them until you have those cards. Everything else is like weak as balls, so it will take forever, and you'll lose monsters, which is just terrible. The matchup against Raging Spirits is just terrible for this deck. Also because of Thunder Tornado, so Thunder Tornado can get rid of weapons, and since TCG does not have this card yet, then this is pretty much just you lose a weapon, your abilities start going away, and you start losing advantage. Another deck that can really ruin this deck is simply a card just like Demon Go to Arc. Like, Dual Dragons could fucking destroy this deck. Arc Giraffe is a scary-ass bitch for this deck, because Dragonic survived because it only hits power, not defense, like Pillar of Fire. It can't kill Arc Giraffe, so Arc Giraffe can just rampage all over your monsters and fucking kill them. And then they have Double Guillotine, which is pretty much just as annoying as Thunder Tornado. And then they also have Demon Go to Arc, which can also destroy a weapon if you're stupid enough to attack into it, even though they have Demon Go to Arc on field. And they can redirect attacks just like that, just like Raging Spirits. And they're just as annoying because they have protection spells like Demon Slay Barrier, Battle Spirit Unite, or if they're crazy enough, Battle Spirit Infusion. So cards will keep that shit alive, and then your deck starts falling apart. So mainly the redirect decks, or any deck that can apply even more pressure than them, which isn't many decks because they have really very good very good like damage output. I think the only deck that would kind of rival it in damage output and consistent enough damage is like Death Rulers, and that's only if they draw all the good Shadow Dive ones like Ephialtes, Gallows, and Burial, all the 2-crit ones, and they draw like in the Judgment Day and start like hitting your face. And if you have a monster in center and you're Dragon World, you're pretty much dead. So it'll be pretty bad if you somehow get like a monster stuck in your center, like you don't have an item and then you call the boosted dragon to center because like you fucked up or something. I mean, I'm not thinking of experience because I haven't gone against Death Ruler with this deck, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of retrospect, that could happen, then you could lose because you fucked up. But that's all I could really say about the deck. It's a very good rush deck, but you have to play your cards right. If you don't, the slightest miscalculation or slightest fuck up could actually come back to bite you in the ass. Like, this is a very good rush decks always have issues with counter removal and always dealing with just any deck that can somehow like keep them from applying too much pressure, and then once that's over, the deck starts falling apart. But this deck can still recover somewhat, even without like getting back any monsters from the drop zone or something like that, like Death Rulers can with Death Agenda and like Black Agenda and shit like that. They can still apply pressure just as well without having Shadow Dive and shit like that. So all I can really say for this deck is that you have to play your cards not perfect, but you have to play them right and know what you're doing in most situations from mid to late game. And once you get that down, you can finish them off easy with your impact. And that's all I can really say. Hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to Team Ring for more Buddyfight content. Comment down below what deck you want to see in the next deck discussion video. And I'll see you guys later. Jalen from Team Ring Infinity going out.